ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि श्री गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, dear Prabhujis, reading from Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, contents of the Gita summarized. And in our last session we read the 28th verse. Now we are reading the 29th verse, another very beautiful verse. So Lord Shri Krishna is further describing Ascharyavat paschati kaschidenam Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva cha anya आश्चर्यवच्चयनम् अन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वापि एनं वेद न चैव कश्चित् श्रुत्वापि एनं वेद न चैव कश्चित् आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवद् वदति तथैव च अन्यः आश्चर्यवच्चैनम् अन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वापि एनं वेद न चैव कश्चित् आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवद् वदति तथैव च अन्यः आश्चर्यवच्चैनम् अन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वापि एनं वेद न चैव कश्चित्. So very beautiful verse. Ascharyavat, amazing. Pashyati, see. Kaschit, some. Enam, this soul. Ascharyavat, amazing. Vadati, speak. Tatha, there. Eva, certainly. Cha, also. Anyaha, others. Ascharyavat, similarly amazing. Cha, also. Enam, this soul. Anyaha, others. Shrunoti, hear. Shrutva, having heard. Api, even. Enam, this soul. Veda, do not. Na, never. Cha, and. Eva, certainly. Kaschit, anyone. Some look on the soul as amazing. Ascharyavat pashyati. Kashchidenam. Some look on the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing. Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva cha anya. And some hear of him as amazing. Ascharyavat chainam anyaha shrunoti. Even after hearing about him, while others cannot understand him at all. Shrutvapi enam vedana chaiva kaschit. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. While others, even after hearing, Shrutvapi enam vedana chaiva kaschit. So very, very beautiful verse Lord Shri Krishna is explaining. And in the purport, Swami Shrila Prabhupada writes, since Gita Upanishad is largely based on the principles of the Upanishads, it is not surprising to also find the passage in the Katha Upanishad. So Swami Srila Prabhupada, he gives another, he is giving reference from Katha Upanishad. Shravanayapi bahubhir yo na labhyah. Shravanayapi bahubhir yo na labhyah. Shrinvanto api bahuvo yah na viduhu. आश्चर्य वक्ता कुशलो अस्य लब्धा आश्चर्य ज्ञाता कुशलानुशिष्टः. The fact that the atomic soul is within the body of a gigantic animal, in the body of a gigantic banyan tree, and also in the microbic germs, millions and billions of which occupy only an inch of space, is certainly very amazing. Man with a poor fund of knowledge and men who are not austere cannot understand the wonders of the individual atomic spark of spirit, even though it is explained by the greatest authority of knowledge who imparted lessons even to Brahma, the first living being in the universe. Owing to a gross material conception of things, most men in this age cannot imagine how such a small particle can become both so great and so small. So, men look at the soul proper as wonderful either by constitution or by description. Illusioned by the material energy, people are so engrossed in subject matters for sense gratification that they have very little time to understand the questions of self-understanding. Even though it is a fact that without this self-understanding, all activities result in ultimate defeat in the struggle for existence. Perhaps one has no idea that one must think of the soul and also make a solution to all the material miseries. Some people who are inclined to hear about the soul may be attending lectures in good association, but sometimes, owing to ignorance, they are misguided by acceptance of the super soul and the atomic soul as one, without distinction of magnitude. So it is very difficult to find a man who perfectly understands the position of the soul, the super soul, the atomic soul, their respective functions, relationships, and all other major and minor details. And it is still more difficult to find a man who has actually derived full benefit from knowledge of the soul, and who is able to describe the position of the soul in different aspects. But if somehow or other one is able to understand the subject matter of the soul, then one's life is successful. The easiest process for understanding the subject matter of the self, however, is to accept the statements of Bhagavad Gita spoken by the greatest authority, Lord Krishna, without being deviated by other theories. But it also requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in the previous ones, before one is able to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee and no other way, and by no other way. So, very beautiful verse. Lord Shri Krishna, he described so much about the soul. Now he is saying, Lord Shri Krishna is explaining to Arjunji, Ascharyavat paschati kaschidenam. Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanya. Ascharyavat chainam manyah shrunoti. Shrutvapi vedana chaiva kaschit. So some look at the soul as very, very amazing thing, wonderful. So some look at the soul as very amazing, very wonderful. Others, they describe vadati. Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanya. Others describe about the soul as amazing. And some hear Shrunoti, some hear about the soul or of him as amazing. And even after hearing, there are people, those who hear, Shrutvapi enam vedana chaiva kaschit. Shrutvapi enam vedana chaiva kaschit. Even after hearing, people are not able to understand about this soul. So Lord Shri Krishna, he is explaining, many will look at the soul as amazing, many will describe it as amazing, many would like to hear about this amazing soul, about this wonderful soul, and even after hearing, many will be there who will not be able to understand in truth about this soul, about the science of the soul. So, because we are so much engrossed in subject matter pertaining to sense gratification, all of us, Swami Shrila Prabhupada is explaining in the purport, because all of us are so busy in our day-to-day life in fulfilling the needs and wants of our senses, our mind, our material senses, our material mind. We tend to think that we are these bodies. That is all what we know about our own self. That I am this body, and the demands of the body, demands of the senses, and the demands of my mind, intelligence, material mind, intelligence and ego are actually my demands. And whole life we are busy satisfying our own self sense gratification. Swami Srila Prabhupada, in one word, he coins sense gratification. Even the mind, intelligence and ego, false ego, that is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam by Kapil Muni, they are the subtle senses. There is gross body which we can see, but there is subtle body. The science will be explained in the further chapters. So whole life we are very, very busy, or 24 hours a day we are completely busy in satisfying the need and wants of our senses, our mind, our intelligence and our ego, our false ego, that we have very, very little time to inquire or for questions of self-understanding. We do not inquire, Swami Srila Prabhupada is writing in the purport. We do not inquire about our own self. Who I am? Am I this body, or do I have a separate existence beyond this body? And Lord Shri Krishna, he described so much about the soul that you are not the body is continuously changing. You are different from the body. You have a separate existence. All of us have a separate existence, but it is very, very difficult, and we don't have time. It is very difficult to understand. And truly speaking, in this age, especially in this age, Kali Yuga, people are so busy in fulfilling their ambitions, their material ambitions, and in subject matter pertaining to sense gratification, that we do not have time to inquire about our own self, our real identity, who I am. Will I get over with this body? So Lord Shri Krishna, that's why he is explaining Ashcharyavat. And those who hear, so Swami Srila Prabhupada, he is writing. So it is very, very difficult to understand. In the previous verses, we saw that the soul is very, very minute. Keshagra shatabhagasya shatada kalpitasya cha. Soul is very, very minute. Very, very minute. And Swami Srila Prabhupada says it is the smallest. It is even small than the material atom. So the soul is so small and subtle, it cannot be experienced through our senses and our mind, intellect, through our material senses and material mind and intellect. So it is very, very amazing. Swami Srila Prabhupada, he writes that a small, minute soul is within the body of a gigantic animal. A very, very gigantic animal, an elephant, is moving because of that presence of that small soul. The whole body, I want to lift my hand, and because this consciousness is there in my body, because of the presence of a minute particle. So what is that particle? How it is supplying that energy to the body? And if it goes out of the body, we saw in the previous verses, in the previous purports, if it goes out of the body is dead. The body is bereft of consciousness. So a small, minute particle is so important in the body. And we cannot see that small particle. We cannot see that soul by the strongest microscope. Swami Srila Prabhupada explained in the previous purports, previous verses. So we cannot see that small particle, but that small souls is responsible for consciousness in even very big, gigantic bodies. There are big whales in the ocean, there are big animals, elephants, and that soul is also there in very small microorganisms, because of which they are alive. Otherwise they are dead matter, they are lump of dead matter. Everybody, as soon as the soul leaves the body has no consciousness, and the body deteriorate on its own. So simultaneously it is very small and it is so great. The soul, Swami Srila Prabhupada, that's why Swami Srila Prabhupada is writing, it is so difficult for people. How such a small particle can become both so great and so small? Swami Srila Prabhupada is writing. Such a small particle is so great. A big banyan tree, a very big aquatic, whales and sharks and elephants, big mammals, animals, human beings, they all have consciousness. The body is working because of the presence of such a minute particle in the body. So it is very difficult to understand this. That's why Lord Shri Krishna, he is saying, Asharyavat Paschati Kashchidenam Asharyavat Vadati Tathaiva Chanya Asharyavat Chainam Anyah Shrunoti Shrutvapi enam Vedana Chaiva Kaschit. And even after hearing about, and Swami Srila Prabhupada gives the reference from Katha Upanishad, and Swami Srila Prabhupada explains the knowledge given by Lord Shri Krishna is more or less, since Gita Upanishad is largely based on the principles of the Upanishads. So there are 108 Upanishads, and actually, truly speaking, Lord Shri Krishna is summarizing or is giving the essence of all the Vedic literature. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Swami Srila Prabhupada, he writes in the purport, not once, twice, and he has explained previously also, he is the greatest authority. He even imparted knowledge to Brahmaji. That Lord Shri Krishna will confirm in the 4th chapter that I gave this knowledge to Brahma in the beginning of the creation, and Arjunji will ask question. You took birth with me, but then how you gave this knowledge to Brahmaji who was born in the beginning of the creation? So Krishna is the greatest authority, and it is very very difficult. Swami Srila Prabhupada, that's why he writes in the purport, it is not possible to accept Lord Shri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead unless one has done austerities and penances in this life or in the previous one. Unless one has done austerities and penances in this life or in the previous life, he cannot accept avajananti ma mudha. Lord Shri Krishna will further explains avajananti ma mudha manushim tanumashritah. Fools deride me, those who are fools, those who do not have proper fund of knowledge, those who do not have complete Vedic knowledge. They cannot understand that Lord Shri Krishna, or they cannot accept Lord Shri Krishna as the greatest authority, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so when He appears in human form, so it is very very difficult. Oh, a human being like me, he is talking to Arjuna, he is on the chariot and he is the cause of all this creation. Lord Shri Krishna is the cause of all this creation. Everything has come from Him. Very, very difficult. But those who know, those who understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead properly from Vedic literatures and Srimad Bhagavatam, in childhood Lord Shri Krishna opened His mouth, and her mother Yashoda, she was able to see the whole Brahmanda in the mouth of Lord Shri Krishna. When Krishna was just a small child, he opened his mouth and Mother Yashoda was able to see the whole universe in his mouth, and she was bewildered and she fainted. She got bewildered and she fainted. So it is very very difficult to accept Lord Shri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Swami Srila Prabhupada, he gives another reference from Katha Upanishad, a similar verse, and it explains Shramanayapi bahubhir yona labhyah Shrinvanto api bahuvo yahna viduhu. Many people, Swami Srila Prabhupada is explaining in the purport, they are inclined to hear about the soul, super soul, and because of some good association, some satsang, some good association, they get opportunity to hear about soul, super soul. But bahubhir yona labhyah bahuvo yahna vidyuhu. So even after hearing, many are not able to understand, and there are chances. Swami Srila Prabhupada is explaining in the purport that because people have gross material conception of life, and because we have only experienced matter and we have no experience of spiritual things, or because we do not have transcendental senses, transcendental eyes, and it is very very difficult to perceive spiritual subject matter or spiritual things, so there are chances that one may get misled. owing to material ignorance and owing to material conception of life. Even if people they hear about soul, then there are chances that they can be misled. They can consider soul and super soul to be one. But they are different in magnitude. They are one in quality, no doubt. So there are chances that people can be misled by impersonalism, or if they think that soul or super soul is like some material energy, then again, so all those misconceptions, it is very, very difficult. Yah na viduhu, yah na labhya, yo na labhyah, shravanayapi bahubhir yo na labhyah, shrivanto api bahuvo yah na viduhu. आश्चर्यवक्ता कुशलो अस्य लब्धा, आश्चर्यो ज्ञाता कुशला अनुशिष्टः. So it is very, very difficult to find a person who can explain Vaktaha, who can explain properly, or one who has proper knowledge of the soul, of the super soul. Swami Shrila Prabhupada writes, their specific functions, both super soul and soul, they have different functions. So their specific functions, their relationship. One is Upadrashta, Anumanta. In the previous verses we saw, in the previous purports, we saw both are birds sitting on the same tree, but one is eating the fruits of the tree, and other is fulfilling the needs and wants of the other bird. Upadrashta, Anumanta is just witnessing and sanctioning. So the soul and super soul, the living being and the supreme being, they are one in quality. But there is a difference in magnitude. And one is master and the other is servant. Though the master, living being or the supreme being, is acting as a friend, but still in all circumstances he is the master. And the other living being, individual, atomic living being, is always atomic, anoyor, anoraniyan mahato mahiyan, smaller than the smallest. The living entity is smaller than the smallest, while the supreme being is greater than the greatest. Mahato mahiyan. And the individual atomic soul can never become one with the Supreme Lord or the Supreme Super Soul or the Supreme Lord by any means. The individual atomic soul can never become one or cannot merge in the Supreme Being homogeneously. So all those misconceptions, unless one has proper understanding, it is not possible. And if one has proper understanding, then he is very, very fortunate. And then Ascharya Gyata Kushala Anushishtaha, Ascharya Vakta Kushalo Asya Labdha. Those who properly understand and explain, it's very, very difficult to find such people, those who have proper knowledge. So Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagwan. So the Supreme Absolute Truth has all the features, all these three features, Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagwan. And it is different, the Supreme Absolute Truth, Brahma and Parabrahma, soul and super soul, are different from matter, and material conceptions cannot be applied in understanding them. Though soul is part and parcel of the super soul, but it is not a material part, and it cannot again become homogeneous with the super soul. The way material elements they merges back in the whole, so it is very difficult to understand in that way. That's why people, because they do not have proper knowledge, complete knowledge, so they tend to do mistake even in explaining. Those who are explaining and those who are trying to understand, it is they can be misled by impersonal philosophy. So Swami Srila Prabhupada here, he actually gives conclusion that it is not possible without austerity and penance. It requires a great deal of austerity and penance to understand the subject matter of soul, super soul, and it is very important, because without self understanding, already we do not have time for self understanding, for realization of our real identity, who I am, why I am suffering, and we never attempt to make a solution for our material miseries. But without self understanding, everything leads to or result in ultimate defeat, Swami Srila Prabhupada is writing, in the struggle for existence. This material world is a struggle for existence, and it all, unless one is self-realized, it all leads to, ultimately it all leads to defeat. So the greatest austerity of this age, Kali Yuga, is chanting of the holy names of the Supreme Lord, by which one can properly understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the only way to understand the science of soul or super soul is to accept the teachings of Bhagavad Gita as it is, which is spoken by the Supreme Authority himself, Lord Shri Krishna. So wonderful verse and wonderful purport. So with this I would like to stop here. We'll take up another verse in our next session. So all glories to His Divine Grace Abhay Charnar Arvind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Bhagavad Gita. All glories to Lord Chaitanya. Hare Krishna.